A lot of you guys know that I've written 4 books on the food service industry, and those 4 different books are Putting the Cart Before the Dog, that's about hot dog vendors. Taking It to the Street, that is about a transition from being a restaurant owner to a food truck owner or somebody just getting into the food truck industry. Then I've written Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. 101 is about getting you into business, and then Food Truck 201 is getting you off the truck and creating a true business, not a self-created job. Each of those books has an acknowledgement page where I thank people that have helped me along the way. So I'm going to share some stories about why I chose the people on the acknowledgement page of my second book, and that one's released in 2019, and it's called Taking It to the Street. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. More customers, more sales, more opportunities. This is the power of marketing for your food truck. But effective marketing is more than just posting a few pictures of your food truck on social media. It includes branding and strategy, plus a realistic plan to kick it into action. Our friends at Table Needs are offering a free step-by-step food truck marketing guide to 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast listeners. Get your copy today. Link is in the description below. The acknowledgements for my second book, again, written in 2019, and the title was Taking It to the Street. The acknowledgement page reads just like this. In a career spanning from the disco era to the snowflake era, I've been lucky enough to meet or work for many quick service icons. However, I have found what drives me to succeed is the people that I've been privileged enough to hire, train, and of course, serve. Literally thousands of employees and millions of guests, many of which I use as inspiration when I go to train new staff members. Their stories of success, failure, poor decisions, and astonishing clarity have become a part of my daily routine and my training regimen. So I want to share a couple of stories about these folks that made a big impression on my life and why I wanted to include them in the acknowledgments. Mark C. He was one of the very first people that were hired at Rack's Restaurants when we started to grow and expand, and we needed a whole bunch of managers. He was a Wendy's manager, and we got a lot of people coming from Wendy's to work for us because our work week was better than Wendy's. Our work week was basically a 5-day-a-week, 8-hour days. Wendy's was maybe you got lucky and got done in 8, maybe not, but you were working 6 days a week. A lot of the rumors back then were Wendy's would hire people to burn them out. A lot of the people that we ended up hiring as managers from Wendy's would tell us the same thing when we hired them at Rack's. They were tired of being burned out. So Mark was one of those folks that came over. He had an amazing attitude, extremely professional. He would come in, if he was closing, he would come in, and the very first thing he would do is come in and shake the hand of whoever the day shift manager was. And then he would ask for a little mini review of how the day went. How was sales at lunch? How was sales? Even when we did breakfast back then, he would talk about breakfast. He would want to know how we stood on baked potatoes and different pieces of meat that we had. How's the prep? And then he would go check everything out. Check the walk-in, check the freezer, check the stock room, check the condition of the dishes in the kitchen, check the dining room, check the salad bar. He walked through the restaurant every single day like you're supposed to and check things out. Once he came in and checked everything out, he would say, okay, you can go ahead and do your paperwork, and would allow the daytime manager to start pulling drawers and getting ready for the daytime manager to leave. And then Mark would take over the business. Every time that I got to work with Mark, if I was the day shift manager and he was the nighttime manager coming in, I would walk up to him and say, I'm getting ready to leave. And he would stick his hand out and say, thank you so much for your work today. He would always ask, is there anything else I can do for you before you leave? I'd be like, no, Mark, I got this. And I would leave. Go make my deposit and go home. When our shifts were reversed and Mark was the one working day shift and I was one working night shift, he would do the exact same thing. He would remind me, hey, you want to check out the salad bar, check out this, check out that. And once you come back and tell me everything's good, I'll start counting my drawers. So he would tell people what he wanted them to do when they came in. No other manager that I ever worked for did that, whether they were brand new or not. He would tell you exactly what you needed to go check and would wait on you to go check it before he would leave the floor and go count the drawers. Then when he was done for the day, he would come out and stick his hand out and say, I'm turning it over to you. Is there anything I can do before I leave? And if there was something, Mark would do it. It wasn't just a platitude of, I'm going through the motions, but I'm going to leave. If I would say, hey, can you do something for me real quick? He would go do it. I never took advantage of him because I knew he would go do it. When he got transferred from Ashland to another store in West Virginia, the staff hated to see him go. He was such a good manager. We threw a little party for him. The staff did not like our store manager at the time. She was effectively useless. They wanted me and Mark to stay and her to go, but she didn't live in West Virginia, and Mark did. And we've been friends ever since. We stay in touch on Facebook. He stayed at Rax for a number of years. He became a district manager. I know he was a district manager in Ohio for a while. And then he went on to other businesses. He ended up running a Tudor's Biscuit World, and it happened to be about 2 blocks from the Rax restaurants I had in Pea Ridge, West Virginia. In between Pea Ridge and Barbersville was his Tudor's Biscuit World. And I would stop in every morning because our bank was all the way in Barbersville. So I would drive right by his restaurant, and I would either pick up something on the way to the bank or on the way back. Mark played Santa Claus for me at one of the Christmas parties we did for underprivileged children. Mark was a good guy. Still is. He's now working for Wendy's. He's high up in the corporation. He's a trainer. So he went back to Wendy's, and he loves it. And I don't blame him. I worked at Wendy's too. Once they got out of the burnout phase, they actually became a very, very good company to work for. Next on my list was Sandy and Liz. They were best friends, and they became very good friends with me. They were 2 people that I could count on. They were employees. They were not managers, but they were 2 people that I could absolutely count on. They worked for me at Rax, and we became very good friends. There were many times back then where I didn't have availability of a transportation. Even though I was a manager, I could get to work, but couldn't always get a ride home because I lived about 15 miles or so from the store. Liz very often would take me home, even though I lived the opposite direction from her, take me home many, many times. And often Liz was also transporting Sandy. So the 3 of us would drive me home, and then the 2 of them would head off and drop Sandy off, and then Liz would head home. So it would make a very long trip. Very long day for Liz. But there were times when I called them in, and they would come in almost at a drop of a hat. There was an issue that we had in Ashland when they were remodeling, and they were trying to turn it into what has become the iconic version of Rax restaurants with the solarium and the big salad bars. So they were having to change our little teeny tiny 12-pan salad bar into the huge one that they were adding back in the day. We were closed on Thanksgiving, and a manager always had to come in and check out the restaurant. So when I go in to check out the restaurant on this particular Thanksgiving, the work crew that had been doing all of the construction pretty much left as big as a mess as you could imagine. They were cutting the concrete so they could lay new drain pipes for this big old salad bar they were going to put in the middle of the dining room, which doesn't sound like it would be a big deal. But if you ever cut concrete, it throws up a real fine powdery dust everywhere. The building looked like somebody had taken a 50-pound bag of flour and just threw it everywhere they could throw it. And it was a mess. There was no way in the world that restaurant was going to open on time. All I was supposed to do was go in and check the restaurant and make sure that the refrigeration and the freezers were on and the money was still intact, that somebody hadn't broken in and stolen the money. Once I saw that huge mess, I just took it upon myself to start calling employees and say, hey, after your Thanksgiving dinner, would you come down and help me clean the restaurant? Liz and Sandy were 2 of those employees. We had about 2 other people come in. We stayed about 6 hours cleaning that place up because there was dust everywhere. We had to dust everything. Otherwise, the store was not going to open on time. Probably wouldn't have opened for lunch if we hadn't done what we did in that evening on Thanksgiving. They were people I could count on. They became the model of employees for me, and I would often compare other employees to them. They were the gold standard as far as I was concerned. They were amazing. Liz went on to college, became a counselor, and my understanding is she is now retired. And Sandy became a paralegal, had a lot of contact with people in Washington, D.C., got to meet a couple of presidents. She now lives out in Arizona. Stay in touch with her and talk to her as frequently as I can. They were the gold standard for employees. Then we come up to Lynn and Jennifer were from my store in Pea Ridge, West Virginia, right outside of Huntington, in between Huntington and Barbersville. Lynn and Jennifer, they were what we called cooks at Rax. A cook was somebody that came in at 6 in the morning. They were a key holder. So the manager didn't come in till usually 8 or 9 o'clock. Lynn would come in or Jennifer would come in and they would start setting up the restaurant and getting it ready. They would cook the roast beef and the baked potatoes and all of those things, get them in the oven and start doing prep work for the salad bar. Like I said, they were key holders without any responsibility other than food-related work. But I could count on them. Lynn and I, one day when we had a horrible snow, and I lived 28 miles from the store, but I got there. Lynn lived about 5 miles from the store. She got there. We were the only 2 people there. And we stayed and worked for all the people that did get out and try to work on that big, heavy snow day. We served several hundred people because the snow and the ice was so bad we didn't lose power, but a lot of other people did. So they came to us so we could feed them. Jennifer was one of the people that would just work and work and work. She would come in again at 6 in the morning and start doing the prep work. And if I had somebody call off on the afternoon shift, I was going to be shorthanded. She would volunteer to stay. She would work 6 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon many times. She did not want us to be shorthanded. She did not want us to give bad service. And the neat thing was she was so good at it, she would make up the work of 2 people, as would Lynn. Lizzie and Henry, both of them were from Ocala, Florida. Henry at Wendy's. Lizzie helped me with the underprivileged children and the Foster Parents Association down there. She did it because she liked what we were doing for kids. And she herself was a kid. She was 16 years old. She took it upon herself to help those other kids out. She would help me do meetings. She would keep me organized. She would do everything so that we could stay on point to help out those kids. And then, of course, she worked at the restaurant, too. She was also the person that caught a quick change artist 2 times. 2 times. She was somebody that needed to stay in the restaurant all the time. She was that good. Then there was Henry. Henry was my good friend. We played basketball together, and by then I was so old I sucked at basketball, but he didn't care. He would still let me play, him and one of our other friends. We played 3-on-3 all the time. Henry was one of the people that fly on the grill at Wendy's. He could fly on sandwich maker at Wendy's. He could even do cashier. We used to do fun things like boys against the girls. We'd have an all-boys staff up front and an all-girls staff at the window and see who could have the better speed of service. Some days we'd flip it around to where it was all girls up front, all guys at the window. And again, see who could have the better speed of service. We made work fun. Henry was amazing at always being happy no matter what was going on. He was a big dude that sometimes I would just have him come stand behind me whenever I had a complaint. Just with his arms crossed. Henry, I got a complaint. I think this person's going to be belligerent. Say, I got you. So I'd go out and talk to the complainer. This sandwich isn't done right. Wah, wah, wah. And they're trying to make a big scene, and Henry would come up and stand behind me with his arms crossed like a security guard, quieting them right down. Henry didn't have to say a thing. Because now you got 2 people. I'm 6'3", and Henry was probably 6'3", 6'4". So you got 2 really big dudes standing there. That kind of quietens down the bullies really, really quick. Laura and Heather, they worked together. I knew them from a completely different restaurant that I would only go in and eat at. And we would talk about restaurant-related things, but they followed me out to Shoney's when we opened to Shoney's. They knew me from just being a person that came and ate in their restaurant, but they liked what I had to say, liked how I handled myself, and they followed me out to Shoney's when we opened it. Nikki was somebody that I met at the Shoney's, and she was unbelievable as a cook. She was one of the people, along with Laura and Heather, that got us through Tropical Storm Alberto. It was our opening week. All the trainers that were there to help us got freaked out by they thought was going to be a hurricane, so they left. And that left us to handle the store in Destin, Florida. So we got open because it was just going to be a tropical storm. We knew no big deal. Tropical storms are nothing to be afraid of. You'll have a worse storm that just randomly shows up in summer than a tropical storm, and it's one of those that you'll hear about for days upon days. So it was going to be a direct hit. The eye of the storm actually went over top of our store. So we get there for breakfast, and it ends up hitting landfall about 9 that morning. So people weren't out. We didn't do hardly any sales, but there was Laura and Heather and Nikki, myself, our dining room manager, and one other person, I believe one of our prep people that was doing the kitchen. And that was it. So the 6 of us. Now the tropical storm moved really, really quick, but it had winds enough to knock out power all around us, except for us. Now, the thing about tropical storms is they close bridges. The part of Destin, Florida that we were working in is effectively an island. So people from the mainland can't get over until the bridge is open. So there the 6 of us were as the storm passes. And now it goes from windy and rainy to light rain to no rain, and the sun starts to show up. So did all the guests that didn't have any power. So we ended up getting absolutely blown away, just the 6 of us. People were angry because I only had 2 servers. That was Laura and Heather ended up putting the dining room manager as being a server so that she could take at least 1/3 of the dining room. And I'm the one that ended up seating it, running the cashier, helping the cooks when they needed it. I was running around everywhere. Couldn't have survived that had I not had those great people. One of the people that I haven't mentioned yet, his name was Ray. He was the operator of the Shoney's. He called me and said, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, "We're getting our butts kicked. Unless you're wanting to come help us, this is not the time to chat." He said, "I'll be right there." So as soon as the bridges got open, he came and made that trip from Fort Walton Beach to Destin. And he came in, and I was in the dish pit at that point. Dining room was full of people. Most of them were being fed. And who wasn't being fed wasn't too far away from being fed, but we were running out of dishes. We had already opened up all of our backup supplies. We were running out of dishes. We had bus pans everywhere, full of dishes, full of glasses. We were running out of plates that we could serve on. So I was back trying to do dishes. And Ray comes in, he says, "I got you." So for the next 4 hours, he and I are doing dishes to get all the dishes caught up, all the silverware caught up. Because by that point, by the time he got there, the night shift started rolling in because the weather had broken. And we ended up having several servers for the dining room. We could open the back dining room. We have a kitchen manager coming in who could take over for the evening, so started to get staff. But Ray was one of those people that knew the business inside and out. He was a good guy. He taught me a lot about food service I had no clue about because Shoney's was the only sit-down restaurant that I've ever worked at. He spent a lot of time teaching me how to do every element of that restaurant. I was taught how to properly seat a dining room. I was taught how to properly do all of the food prep and how important it was when you seat the dining room that you don't blow away the kitchen and you don't blow away the other servers. There's a method to getting it done and done right so that the tables turn and no one feels any stress. And that's a real talent. Not a lot of restaurants doing it these days. Ray was kind of like a savant when it came to restaurants. Really amazing. Then the last two people on the list, Tracy and Mark. Tracy was a district manager at Burger King. Mark was the vice president of Burger King. Mark was the one everybody looked up to. He had been a vice president in our franchise for a number of years, but prior to that, he was a vice president for the actual Burger King Corporation. So having him work with us was pretty impressive. He was one person that always set a good example. He was also one person that made people live up to their word and helped you to be a better operator, a better manager, a better leader. Tracy was one of those people that followed the rules exact. If it was written, it was to be done. And she knew the operations manual inside and out. She was one of those people that could just about quote you what page the information was on. She was also very fast at doing it. There's a lot of people that know the specs but can't produce them. Tracy could produce them. There would be times when she would come into one of my restaurants and I would say, "Could you help me just for a little bit?" She would jump on one of the sandwich boards and whip out the sandwiches quickly. She was one of those people that had worked at Burger King about 20 years. She'd done every position from crew all the way up. She knew the business inside and out. And Mark knew more than she did. I had a problem with one of the managers from another district that made a promise to staff us and then rescinded that promise because they were going to be shorthanded. And Mark was like, "I'll fix that." He called them up and told them in front of me that you're going to keep your word. You're not going to force this person you promised help to be working a double shift because someone else called off and you're pulling back your management. That's not going to happen. And he made them keep their promise. Now, if you notice a common theme in all these people, they are professionals. They were good. They were better than good. They were great at what they did. They're people that I try to stay in touch with as much as I can today, the ones that are still alive. It's important that you find good people. They're out there. You got to have good mentors to help you to be better, and you got to have good employees that you help to get better. Food service is extremely important and can teach a whole bunch of really lifelong skills if you take it serious. There's a bunch of good people out there. All you got to do is go find them. And then when you do find them, tell them how much you appreciate what they do each and every day. Stick your hand out, shake your hand like Mark always used to do. Say, "Thank you for doing an awesome job today. We're going to do it again tomorrow." Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow because you know I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.